Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk about incorrect assumptions. What I mean by that is there's a lot of people watching this channel now, and I'm really careful how I say things, but I'm reading all the comments. I don't always respond. In fact, I frequently don't respond. I try to, and if I have time and I have something that I can say that doesn't require a big video, I try to answer. But I'm seeing a lot of comments that make assumptions about what I'm saying that aren't right. And I've done videos about watching my videos with nuance and what it's like to be a game director and what it's like to be a programmer and what it's like to be a designer. But this is something different. This is me saying one thing and a listener or watcher thinking I said something else and then responding to that. And sometimes I read a comment that's so wrong, I don't know how to respond. Like the base assumptions of the comment are incorrect. So I don't know what to say. So what I do is I want to walk through some of the things I'm reading just so you can go, oh, I may have done that, or I wasn't doing that, I meant something else. And that's the other thing. People write things and sometimes I misread them, or sometimes they write them in a vague way and I thought they were asking one question, they were asking another. So let me walk through some of these. Probably the first one I want to mention is I do not speak for the entire game industry. The game industry is huge. It's bigger than movies and television and music combined. I've only experienced a small fraction of the game industry. Yes, I've done it for 42 years. This will be, by the time you watch this, I'll be a few months away from ending my 43rd year. But I've never done indie. I've never done mobile. I've never even done AAA. Technically, all my games are AA at best. AAA budgets have always eluded me. Except in WildStar, but I didn't stay to the end of that. And, well, you can decide if WildStar's AAA. What I would recommend, there is a video, a career video. I'm going to link it below. It's what auto plays when you come to the channel, at least the first time you come to the channel, depending on, I guess, how you're looking at the channel. But that covers every game company I've ever worked at and every game I've ever worked on. That's my background. That's what I'm speaking from. So, for example, when I did I think there's a lot of caution in the game industry. A lot of people were like, no, Tim, you're wrong. The indie game industry is great and has no caution whatsoever. Okay, I've never worked in the indie game industry. I believe you. It's kind of not what I was saying. So I feel like I don't need to explicitly put a caveat at the beginning of every video I make going, in my experience, this is what's going on in this section that I've worked on. So, but it's implicit in every video I have. This is my experience. This is what's happened to me. I understand when people go, if you go, hey, that may be right, but you know, the indie segment is going strong. I love comments like that. What I don't like is when people go, nope, you're wrong. That's not happening. It reminds me of all the women who got shut down in the Me Too movement by saying, I never saw that. I never saw anything like that. Well, okay, you probably didn't, but that doesn't invalidate someone else's experiences. Anyway, please look at the career video. Second one that I see a lot, and there's kind of an underlying assumption in a lot of comments. Game directors always get their way. Now, I've said that's when you're doing a project, the game director is the benevolent dictator and makes final decisions and breaks ties and stuff like that. But in no way does a game director always get their own way on a project. Forget the fact that you run out of time or money or whatever, which happens in every game I've ever made. But sometimes you have leads in all the areas, and sometimes you defer to them. I especially do that with my art leads because I'm not very good at art, I'm not very good at judging art, and I'm colorblind. So almost any game of mine, actually I'd say every game of mine, if you like or hate how it looks, it has nothing to do with me. I take responsibility. As a game director, I take responsibility for everything that goes into my game. And I give credit to all the people who worked on it. But I just want you to know, game directors aren't always the final say. Sometimes I defer to my leads, but if I work at a company I don't own, I have to defer to the owners. If the owners tell me to do something, if they tell me to do something unethical, I'll say no. But if they tell me like, hey, we got to have this in the game because we promised it, or all games at this company have feature X. I'll be like, okay, I'll work that in. And publishers definitely do that. Anybody who's basically paying you, if you accept money from someone, they have the final say in what goes in. If you don't like that, self-fund your games. But publishers have frequently said, hey, we want this, we want that. It's why we had, I didn't want Securom on Arcanum. Publisher demanded it. I didn't want multiplayer in Arcanum. Publisher wanted that. We had publishers when we were shipping around Outer Worlds that wanted all kinds of things, microtransactions, stuff like that. Sometimes we said no, and we told them big negative because of that. That's a deal breaker. But sometimes you're like, okay, I guess we'll make a game that has that feature. Which brings me to another thing. Game directors don't like every feature and all the content in every game they make. People like to assume that because it's in my game, I must have loved it. And I've talked about how sometimes there's stuff I didn't even know about. A game will ship without me seeing every line of dialogue, without me seeing every item. I try to track everything going in, but for big games, that's literally impossible. Plus, see the previous thing I just talked about I don't have the final word on everything. Sometimes something goes in and I'm overridden. But there are also sometimes features that aren't the way I want them to be for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is we ran out of time and the feature wasn't implemented fully, or we went back to a fallback feature because we literally didn't have the time to do the one I wanted. But another one that often happens is I miscommunicated what I wanted. I asked for something, I got something that technically is that thing, but that's not really what I wanted. And that's on me, but that's happened a few times, and there's no time to go back and change it. So we're going with this. Sometimes it's an ability thing. Sometimes I've asked for something that literally no one on the team has the ability to implement. Sometimes it's because it's something really complicated. Sometimes it's because it's something no one particularly knows how to do, and no one on the team could figure it out. So I don't get that feature. I got another feature I didn't want, because the one I wanted, no one on the team, including me, had the ability to do it. And then the final reason that game directors sometimes don't get what they want is knowledge that the team has. There have been times where I've asked for a feature and I was told I couldn't have it because the engine didn't support it. And let me be clear on this. Every single game I made on an engine that I did not make, there's at least one feature in that game that either I don't like it or I didn't even get to put the feature in because someone on the team said that can't be done. And they were wrong. It could be done, but neither them nor me knew that the engine supported it or how it supported it. So let me repeat that. If I made a game and I didn't make the engine, there's a feature in there I don't like because it's not the one I wanted. Or there's a feature missing that I really wanted. Every single one of those. Modern game engines are complex. They have a lot of things they can do and a lot of ways of doing it. Sometimes you ask for things, someone tells you no, they're wrong, but you don't know that and they don't know that. So, boom, game directors don't like every feature that's shipped in their game. Another thing that tends to happen is I see a lot of comments where people say, you said passion guarantees a good game, or you said good communication guarantees a good game, or you said using this production method guarantees a good game. No, I did not. I never said anything guarantees a good game. You're assuming because I say like passion is super important, which I believe, that guarantees a good game. Nothing guarantees a good game. All those things I just mentioned help. Good communication, being passionate about what you want and what you do. Those are all good things, but none of them guarantee you make a good game. I've seen good games made by teams that I think were phoning it in. I've seen bad games made by people who were super passionate, and I was sad they missed the mark, but they did. So these things happen. Games are complicated. One huge assumption I see, a lot of people make this, is that sales, reviews, and budgets are all connected. So in other words, if you sell a lot, you probably have good reviews. If you sell a lot, you probably had a big budget. If you get good reviews, you had a lot of money. Not only are these things not connected, they're not even correlated. There are a lot of games that go out there that sell a lot and then don't review well. There's a lot of games that have big budgets and don't sell. So I think it's obvious if you think about it, but I still see people say things like, well, this game obviously is terrible, and so its sales must be awful. No, sometimes sales are awesome. And guess what? Guess what the biggest thing sales correlate with? Marketing budget. If you have a big marketing budget, you can probably get a lot of sales. That's just how things work. I don't like it. And there are exceptions. There are, especially in indie games, there are games that hardly got any budget, got thrown up on Steam or something, and suddenly were these breakout hits. I wouldn't rely on that if I were you. If that's what you're planning to do with your indie game, best of luck to you. Probably won't happen. Also, one reason sales often correlate with really good games is, and marketing budgets, is when a game is being made towards the end and it gets evaluated and people go, oh wow, this is going to be really good. Often they get their budgets increased, their marketing budgets. So when a company realizes it has something really good on its hands, it goes, whoa, we better market this. One thing that I've noticed, and this is kind of related to sales, customers, and in this case, game fans, they don't do what they say they're do. The biggest example I've seen outside the game industry is the airline industry. People love to complain about airlines, about they don't get fed and their seats are terrible and they have to pay for their luggage. It's your fault. That's why the airlines are what we made them into. When the first airline cut their tickets just by $10 or $15 and stopped feeding us, most people went for the $15 smaller ticket. So all the airlines stopped feeding us. When one of them stopped accepting baggage and made you pay to put it on, again, people bought the cheaper ticket and said, I'll just carry on. Then when all the carry-on things got crowded and they started doing staggered tickets, and like, do you want basic or basic economy or super economy plus or whatever? Again, there are people who go for those lowest tickets. So airlines didn't make us do this. We did it, and they went where the money is. So in many ways, the airline, I always hold that up as an example of customers say they want these things, but when it comes to paying for them, they won't pay for them. So the airlines don't provide them. In gaming, what this corresponds to is people say they want originality, but that's not really what they want. Looking at sales, people want familiarity, which is why sequels do well, and they want high production values. Not necessarily an original game. Sometimes a game will come out that's just a higher production value of a previous game, and people flock to that high production one. So, and those games will talk about some feature they had that a game 10 or 20 years ago had. No one cares. And I know you guys are saying, I care. Well, guess what? Enough of you don't care. If you care, then look left and right. Those people don't. So this is what's driving the game industry. They've learned to make what people buy, not what people say they're buy. And this is just something you learn the hard way when you're trying to be a game director and you're like, I want to do something like this, and people go, that's probably gonna be a niche game. I've made a lot of niche games, and people wish I continue to make niche games, but at some point you kind of want to make something mainstream. And that brings me to the last thing related to mainstream is bonuses and royalties. People assume that happens a lot. A lot of my games got no bonus or very little bonus. Usually you'll get a bonus one time, and that's if the game does well. And if you're still there a few months later, if you quit, or if there are layoffs, which often can happen, if you're not there anymore, no bonus for you. And then there's only one. If the game continues to sell well, RPGs sell well for years. No more bonuses. Nothing keeps happening. It's rare that you're in a situation where you get multiple bonuses like that. Sometimes the bonuses will be promised, but they won't happen. The company is doing badly, so there's no money to give you. Or they go out of business. That's happened a number of times where it's like, thank you for working on this game, but 3 months later, that company's gone. Also, sometimes they have to do layoffs because the burn rate to keep everybody on staff is so high that the money they're taking in just can't support having all those people on staff. So that happens. A bad thing that you hear about too is publishers sometimes just ignore the contracts. I've had that happen. I said they owed me this much, and they were like, we don't think so. And I know what you're saying. We'll sue them. Let me tell you what happens if you sue a publisher. They'll defend themselves, and they have deeper pockets, and no other publisher will want to work with you. So good luck with that. It's not just happened to me. I know, talking to colleagues, they've worked at other companies where a publisher screwed them over. Sometimes they audited them and got their money. Sometimes they didn't. But it's rare that they then work with them again. So that's a problem. And because repeated big bonuses are a problem, even if you get one, don't plan on that happening every time, or don't even plan on that happening again. The game industry is very different than the movie industry, the music industry, the TV industry. Actors get residuals, screenwriters get residuals, musicians get royalty. Although that's changing. I heard Trent Reznor say he doesn't want to make music anymore because music is now a commodity. Well, guess what? Gaming's always been a commodity. So it's very rare for you to make any kind of money after the game ships over your salary. Maybe you get a bonus once, maybe twice. Rare is a royalty or residual situation. But I see a lot of people assume that's what it's like. Most work in the game industry is work for hire. So WFH used to mean work for hire, not work from home. And most games are work for hire. You get paid a salary to do it, and then you're done. So I think I've rambled on long enough. Those are all the assumptions I see people making in the comments. Just wanted to basically talk about them so people go, oh, I guess things don't work the way I think they work. And also, if you want to leave comments in the future, I may sometimes reference this video if I think you're assuming something like I've said here. Anyway, that was a long video. Thanks.